Welcome to Fear and Greed, business news you can use. Today, the Reserve Bank says there are no more interest rate cuts in the foreseeable future. The parliamentary expenses scandal widens, and Donald Trump makes it very expensive for families to visit the Grand Canyon. Plus, global online forum Reddit is preparing to mount a legal challenge to the Australian government's world-first social media ban for under 16-year-olds, and Paramount takes on Netflix in a fight for Warner Brothers. It is Wednesday, the 10th of December 2025. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Morning. A story just for you today, Michael.
That would be the Grand Canyon one, right?
It would. We'll get to it.
We will indeed. The main story this morning, Sean, the Reserve Bank does not expect any more interest rate cuts in the foreseeable future and has warned that inflation risks are rising. The comments came after the central bank left the official cash rate at 3.6% yesterday, as was widely expected.
The bank said underlying inflation had risen recently, and while some of the increase was driven by temporary factors, there has also been a broader lift in prices. Risks to inflation have tilted to the upside, the bank said, and the persistence of price pressures will take some time to assess. Initially, the central bank didn't sound quite as worried about inflation as some thought, or in economic speak, was less hawkish than some expected. Then we had Michelle Bullock's press conference, and that turned around a bit. According to the Reserve Bank, private demand is being supported by rising household spending and investment. Housing activity and prices continue to increase while credit remains readily available. The economy, particularly the private sector, has picked up more than expected, and if that continues, it will add to inflation pressures. It was the final Reserve Bank board meeting of the year. Now, the bank cut rates in February, May and August this year.
Yeah.
If the cycle is over, as Michelle Bullock basically said that yesterday, it will be the narrowest or least number of rate cuts in terms of a rate reduction cycle since the deregulation of the Australian economy in the 1980s.
Really? God, it didn't last long then.
No, did not last long at all. This 2:30 p.m. announcement yesterday sent bond yields slightly lower, though markets still have priced in a hike next year. The Aussie dollar slipped while the share market dropped back as well.
Now, straight after the announcement, Federal Treasurer Jim Chalmers was very quick to emphasise that some of the pickup in inflation reflected temporary factors.
He also liked the central bank comments that there was improvement in private sector spending and investing. This whole argument that the public sector is holding up the economy, well, Michelle Bullock basically said it's the private sector that's pushing to that now. And Jim Chalmers loved that one. The Treasurer said while millions of Australians would have preferred a rate cut, the RBA's decision was not unexpected.
Now, of course, you watched the press conference with Michelle Bullock like a hawk afterwards, looking for clues, anything that might kind of give people a bit of hope either way. Anything there, any hints about rates, what is going to happen, what the next move is actually going to be?
Well, yes. And if you've got a mortgage, you're not going to like this one. If you're an investor, you might like it very much. Bullock said the board sees no immediate need for additional rate cuts.
Okay.
She then went on to say that, in the foreseeable future, that ain't going to happen. Basically, in the back on the pickup in private demand, and I'll quote her, the question is it just an extended hold from here, or is it the possibility of a rate rise? I couldn't put a probability on those, but I think they're the two things that the board will be looking closely at coming into the new year.
That's a long way from we don't rule anything in or rule anything out. That's pretty much just ruling rate cuts out entirely.
Totally. She said February's inflation data is the key input into the next policy decision, adding that the bank remains some way from its target of getting inflation to 2.5%.
I think a lot more came out of that meeting than I was expecting, perhaps more definite than I was expecting it to be very much, I'll just wait and see, nothing ruled in, nothing ruled out, we just need more data. That does sound clearer.
She was definitely more specific in the press conference than the statement afterwards. In fact, the statement afterwards, some people thought, it's not like they're a little bit sort of unsure what's going to happen next.
Okay.
But afterwards, she just said no rate cuts in the foreseeable future.
Yeah. All right. ASX, how did it react? Where did it finish up yesterday?
It fell a bit, but it was actually a pretty poor last hour when the Michelle Bullock's comments were from the press conference filtered through to the market. It finished down nearly 0.5% to 8,586 points. Wasn't like a precipitous fall, but it was very widespread. So 11 of the 11 sub-indices ended lower. Energy, healthcare and tech stocks did worst.
Precipitous.
Yeah, it's a good word.
It's a great word. Very, dare I say it, it's a very pompous word to use.
It is a pompous word, and I did have to use autocorrect to spell it correctly.
You didn't need to admit that, Sean. Not in an audio medium. No one needs to know how you spell it. Global markets, what's going on there?
Well, copper's hit an all-time high on expectations of stronger Chinese demand, but spare a thought for US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, who'll probably announce an interest rate cut in the next couple of days. Tonight, the Fed board begins its two-day meeting amid a slowing employment market, rising inflation, a president who openly berates him, and a split between board members about whether rates should go up or down. Now, we'll find out tomorrow morning after the show's released about whether there's a rate cut or not. But
don't forget, as well, the other thing to add into that to make it even harder is that they don't have all the data that they would love to have.
No, that's true, yes, because of the shutdown.
Yeah. So kind of doing it with kind of a blindfold on, one hand tied behind your back, I suppose.
One of those sort of things.
Either way, it's not an easy job, Sean.
No, it's not.
Okay, we'll be back in a moment with the rest of the day's business news. Sean, the parliamentary expenses scandal is growing and engulfing more parliamentarians from both sides of politics.
Yes, so the latest revelation is that Communications Minister Annika Wells, when Sports Minister, left a Comcar limousine waiting for nearly 10 hours while she attended the 2022 National Rugby League and National Rugby League Women's Grand Finals. That would have cost the taxpayers more than $1,200, according to the SMH. She also charged taxpayers nearly $1,000 for a Comcar to wait for her while she was at the Australian Open tennis. Expenses data reveals Trade Minister Don Farrell used his entitlements hundreds of times to fly his family around the country since Labor was elected in 2022. The AFR is reporting Attorney General Michelle Rowland billed taxpayers more than $20,000 for her family to travel to Western Australia. Now, late last night, Annika Wells referred her travel spending to an audit by the Parliamentary Expenses Watchdog. Clearly, she is feeling the pressure on that one. Some of these travel expeditions may not actually be outside the rules, but as David Pocock, the independent senator from the ACT, said, it's sort of be coming down to the letter of the law versus community expectations.
Yeah.
And this is where they're running foul of it.
Basically, we need to introduce a pub test segment on this show where every day we put something new before the pub test.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm tipping we will not let anything pass the pub test. I feel like we are very good deciders of these things, Sean.
Maybe.
Now, Defence Minister Richard Marles says the AUSMIN talks with Foreign Minister Penny Wong, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth have led to an agreement for infrastructure investment to support more US forces at Australian bases.
The parties agreed to see more pre-positioning of significant American assets in Australia, including Osprey tilt rotor aircraft. Osprey or Osprey?
Osprey.
Yeah, Osprey. Osprey tilt rotor aircraft, they're very cool. And greater collaboration on guided weapons and hypersonic cruise missiles, also very cool.
I like to see a bit of enthusiasm for aircraft from you, Sean. This is good.
After the meeting, Rubio said building diversity into critical mineral supply chains has become the central way that Australia can work with the US. It's assuming we want to do that. At a press conference after the meeting, Miles insisted the government has been transparent about the progress of AUKUS. He avoided questions about what had changed after the Pentagon review, which we just got only in recent weeks. He said Australia's obligation under the pact are now really clear. I would have thought they would have been really clear beforehand. And the next $1 billion payment, US $1 billion, about 1.5 billion Aussie, will be made before the end of the year.
Global online forum Reddit is preparing to mount a legal challenge to the Australian government's world-first social media ban for under 16-year-olds.
Sure is. It comes as the ban commences today and is a direct threat by a major tech company to one of PM Anthony Albanese's headline policies. The tech platform has enlisted a top barrister and a local law firm. According to the AFR, any challenge is expected to be through the High Court, likely to focus on teenagers' implied right of freedom of political communication. It would be the second High Court challenge. The first, led by New South Wales Libertarian Party MLC John Ruddock, is fronted by two 15-year-olds, filed 2 weeks ago. based on the same argument, banning teenagers' freedom of political communication. There are currently 10 social media platforms included in the new law: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitch, Kick, X, YouTube, Reddit. Good luck to all the parents out there from this morning.
Absolutely. Of any social media platform to challenge this, I would not have picked Reddit as the one.
Yeah.
It would have been X
Yes.
with Elon Musk and others.
I think
But
so.
but no, this is interesting. You are speaking today, Fear and Greed Q&A, after the show. You're speaking with Whipper, Michael Whipfley, who is a radio presenter on Nova, which is the station that we record this podcast in. And he's also one of the organisers of the 36 Months campaign. So he was really the guy behind this move.
Yeah, it's a fantastic chat with Whipper because he has driven it from the get-go. Both parties have come in behind it, and he should be very proud of what he's done.
Now, the Federal National Party is just openly hammering former leader Barnaby Joyce now, who on Monday said he was joining One Nation, saying the decision was about personal ambition, not his electorate.
Yes, and everyone, it's just left, right and centre. They are firing. So Deputy NAS leader Kevin Hogan said Joyce's decision was very disappointing and hurtful. Other former leaders have been able to remain on the backbench. Mark McCormack, of course, did that. Leader David Littleproud previously said the defection was simply about Joyce's personal ambition. Independents jumped in as well. Teal Monique Ryan called Joyce a shameless popularist, adding that his shift will actually have little impact on Australia. For his part, Joyce said he'd maintain a laser-like focus for his electorate of New England until the next election.
And did you see that because he has now joined One Nation, it gives One Nation enough members to have official party status? And as a result, there is also now an increase in pay for Pauline Hanson as the leader. It's about another $100,000 per year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't get that until
he officially moves over.
Yeah.
Until it's, I don't know what's required to officially become a member of a party.
Yeah,
I imagine it's just a bit of paperwork, but good luck getting it processed at this time of year.
Hmm.
Now, BHP has done a $3 billion deal for private equity group BlackRock to take a stake in its West Australian power network as the big Australian pushes to monetize its infrastructure assets. This is interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. Western Australia Iron Ore's Inland Network powers BHP in the Pilbara. Now, that's obviously where we dig up all the iron ore. It's where BHP gets most of its revenue from. Under the deal announced yesterday, BHP's ownership will be split, or its ownership of this inland network, it owns 85% of it, that'll be split between BHP, which will have 51%, BlackRock, which will have 49%. BHP obviously gets the money. BlackRock will get a tariff linked to its share of power flowing through the infrastructure over 25 years. It includes a power station, 400 kilometres of transmission and distribution lines, substations, control systems. It's just really interesting how BHP can manufacture, that might be being a bit cruel, but create a value from these transmission networks.
Yeah, it is. Turning to international news now, Sean, a Game of Thrones style fight is on for Warner Brothers Discovery, with media giant Paramount Skydance bidding $108 billion for the group just 2 days after Netflix lobbed a bid that was a bit less. What was that? $72 billion US. These are US dollars,
These
aren't
are
they?
US dollars.
So Netflix bid $72 billion. Paramount's come in with a $108 billion bid. US President Donald Trump has inferred that it's really up to him. He'll be the kingmaker here.
He has inferred it. Now, first off, the bid by Netflix is for fewer assets than the bid by Paramount. So that's why there's such a discrepancy in price. And Netflix wants the studios and back catalogues, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and plans to spin off cable channels such as CNN and Discovery. Paramount wants the lot, right? So which offer provides better outcome for shareholders is very much up for interpretation. Already this week, after Netflix made its announcement, but before Paramount made its announcement, Trump came and said he's worried about competition issues if Netflix took over. Then, all of a sudden, Paramount, which of course owns Network 10 here in Australia, CBS in the US, makes a hostile bid backed by Trump ally Larry Ellison of Oracle fame. Also involved Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and a Gulf nation sovereign wealth fund. You can kind of see where it's going.
Oh, that's getting messy. It's But these are huge sums.
So huge and incredible power.
Yeah. It is quite an extraordinary story. And
we shouldn't prejudge it. But, oh, wow.
Prejudging is one of my favourite things to do, Sean. Please
tuned,
don't take that away from me. Now, Donald Trump is not just putting US businesses first. He's also favouring US tourists as well, introducing a $150 charge per person for foreigners, including Australians, it must be pointed out, visiting popular US national parks like the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, Yellowstone, take your pick.
And that's on top of the existing entrance fees. So, Trump signed an executive order, said national parks will be about America first. The extra $100, so let's call it 150 Aussie, non-resident fee, applies to 11 of the most popular parks, will take effect from January 1. So a family of 4.
Yep.
From the southern suburbs of Sydney.
I'm listening.
Heading to the Grand Canyon, having spent thousands of dollars in airfares, car hire and accommodation, higher ESTA charges as well, will now have to pay, 4 times 150, 600 plus $50 entry fee, $650 to see the Grand Canyon. Michael, your face.
This hypothetical family travelling in May.
Let's call them
the
Thompsons?
Yeah, just pick a name at random.
Yeah.
This is a real shock, Sean. This is not good news, and I did not want to hear this today, so thank you for ruining my day. But we're still going to go, and we're still going to have a glorious time.
In May?
Yep.
Fantastic.
Pop it in the calendar. Up next is Fear and Greed Q&A with Michael Whipfley, better known as Whipper, architect, who's one of a few, but really one of the driving forces behind the social media ban. It's a great chat coming up next in the Fear and Greed playlist on your podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au, which is where you sign up for our free daily newsletter. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Wednesday, the 10th of December, 2025. Make sure you're following the podcast and join us online as well. Head to LinkedIn, Instagram, X, TikTok and Facebook. I'm Michael Thompson. That was Fear and Greed. Have a great day.